Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Clutch Conversations. It's your boy Mike. We back at you one more again, live on another Thursday night. Welcome to Clutch Conversations. Appreciate everybody sliding through. Big shout out to my lovely wife, Takar. Y'all know how we do. Make sure y'all show us some love in the comments, man, and don't stop there. Make sure y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so you can get notifications each and every time we drop a video here on the channel. Really appreciate the love, really appreciate the support. Let's hit some housekeeping items up real quick. First off, follow us everywhere you can find us. And where can you find us? You can for sure find us on Morph Market, man. So go check out our Morph Market. We actually got a couple auctions going live right now, so make sure you tap in with that. Those are going to end on Saturday night, man. So definitely go check it out, man. Throw some bids down, see if you win something for a good deal. Check us out on Instagram, Herp Collectors Network. Make sure you follow in both pages. Definitely tap in with us there, man. If you ever got any questions about anything, definitely feel free to hit me up, reach out anytime, and check us out on Facebook. Don't hit me up on Facebook, man, because I don't be on the Facebook Messenger like that for the business app. It'd be so clunky, but definitely check us out on Facebook and follow the page. But like I said, man, the best way to hit me up, if you don't have my numbers, to hit me on IG. So definitely check us out and make sure you checking out not only Clutch Conversations, but all the shows on the Herp Collector Network. Check us out on your favorite audio podcasting platform. That's Spotify podcast, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Make sure you tapping in with us right there. And please be sure to follow, rate, and review. It really helps us out. Appreciate the support. Speaking of support, you know how we do. Make sure you support both USARK and USARK Florida. If you're not familiar with those organizations, definitely get familiar with those organizations. Those are organizations that are organized to help protect our rights as reptile keepers. So make sure you're supporting them, man. It's one of the best defenses we have against things coming out through the legislature where people making decisions about stuff they don't really understand, and then it impacts us. It impacts us from a pet keeper perspective, a hobbyist perspective, a business perspective, all that, man. So we need everybody who affiliated with these reptiles and amphibians or any exotic animals. Make sure you're supporting USARK and USARK Florida. The link for both organizations is in the description of this video. And if you ain't tapped in with the Double Clutch Patreon, don't know what you're waiting on. Me and the homie Matt from Ebony and Ivory Reptiles run the Double Clutch Patreon, man. One of the best Patreons out there. So definitely make sure you tap in with us, man. We have a lot of fun, man. Definitely enjoy building that community and tapping in with everybody. So make sure you tap in with us, Double Clutch Patreon. We got 4 tiers, so you can got plenty to choose from. Definitely tap in with us. And then last but not least, make sure you're checking out all the shows on the Herp Collectors Network. We got 7 shows that we run, and we on 6 days per week. Definitely check it out. We hitting multiple species. We even hitting plants. So definitely make sure you checking that out and showing some love to those shows. Speaking of folks showing love, man, the sponsors know they show some love, so we're going to show some love to the sponsors.
Join Canova's Patreon today and get access to hundreds of hours of exclusive educational content designed to help you run a successful BallPython business. Get insider information on the latest genetics, hot new combos, and market trends, learning directly from the world's leading BallPython designer. With 5 benefits packed tiers, you may be asking yourself, which tier do I join, BitMike? Well, if you're on the fence, I'd recommend the student tier. When I first joined the Patreon almost 4 years ago, this is the tier that I started on, and it's only gotten better since. So don't delay. Join the Canova Patreon today. Art comes in many forms. And on Miss Angels, it comes to life. In life, success doesn't come to you. You go to it. In this game, forward thinking is the key to innovation and staying relevant. Plan your work and work your plan. Lose yourself in the art. Lose yourself with wetter morphs.
Big shout out to the sponsors. Appreciate you, fellas. Y'all make sure y'all tap in with the sponsors. We got Canova, we got Armless Angels, BallPythons, and we got Wetter Morph Constrictors. Make sure you tapping in with all of them. Let's see who tapping in with us tonight. What's good? We got the homie John, Mission Morphs in the building, saying hello to everybody. Appreciate you coming out, fam. We got John from Lucky's Pythons in the building. What's good, homie? We got James Perry in the building. What's up? What's up? We got the Pie Man himself saying what's up to me and wifey. What's good, Dwight? Appreciate you reaching out, homie. See who else we got. Got Big Matt from KMB Reptiles. What's good, homie? Appreciate you coming out. We got the Herp and Harbins in the building. Something told me I was going to see the Herp and Harbins tonight. Josh and Alicia in the building. What's up? Appreciate y'all coming out. We got the homie Santos Exotic World Geckos. Appreciate you coming out, fam. And we got Low Town Reptiles in the building. Appreciate you coming out. We're going to stop it right there. We're going to kick this intro video, and then we'll be right back.
Baby, won't you listen to me? I got that flavor. I know you're dying to feed. I ain't no dancer, just got some hip in my feet. Now throw your hands up. Ooh, you bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll add the fuel. Follow my lead, just watch your shoes. Gotta turn the heat up to get this cold.
Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this?
Brian, what's good? What's good? What's good?
What's
How
up,
you
man?
doing, brother?
Doing good. I always crack up when I see Jeremy and Jeannie cracking up like that because I saw that and I know what that was about.
Yeah, man, that was hilarious, man. I was dying laughing.
That's awesome. It's fun when those organic moments happen. You know what I mean?
100%. So how you been, man? It's been a minute since you've been on the show, but saw you a few months back, man. So talk to us. How you been, bro?
It's been good, man. It's been good. We've been going through the transition. I think everybody by now kind of knows what we're doing. I mean, you know, at first we were trying to get the word out. We're not going anywhere. We're not getting out. You know, just, you know, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I mean, I worked with colubrids and other species for over 20 years, you know, before I had a ball python.
Oh, word.
And, you know, and after 10 years with ball pythons, I mean, it's been great to us, but it's so time consuming compared to the colubrids. And, you know, I'm 55, man. My wife and I want to travel. We want to go do more things, you know, not just do snake shows, even though we have a blast at the shows. I mean, we're leaving tomorrow morning for the All-American Reptile and Plant Expo in Nashville. So I hope everybody that's in the area comes and checks that one out. It's probably going to be the biggest show Nashville's ever seen, you know, and I think it's going to be awesome. You know, we were in Charlotte, and of course, Bob's show, you know, in Atlanta. So we've been busy this year. This is our last show till August. So we're kind of taking a little bit of a break. Got a vacation scheduled in July, but man, it's been going good. We've been rocking and rolling and shipping snakes and selling snakes and just, you know, having a good time.
Yeah, man. It sounds like that Nashville show gonna be a lot of fun. Nashville in and of itself is a fun place, and then having the expo there, that's gonna be dope, man.
I've always been astounded that Tennessee doesn't have, you know, I mean, I'm not dogging on any of the promoters that do shows here, but I mean, you know, they're smaller, you know, 30 vendor at the most, you know, shows. And, you know, I haven't done that well at them, to be honest with you. And with this will be our first Tennessee show in years. And I mean, I'm stoked to be able to just drive a couple hours down the road, you know.
Yeah, Nick and Troy put on a real good show, real professional. Definitely checking off all the boxes. It helps that they vended, you know what I mean?
Well,
And
and that
having that
always does. It's
experience.
just like that show, Bob's show, you know, I mean, when you take somebody who's, you know, made their living vending, you know, they've seen the good, they've seen the bad, and they know how to, you know, they know how to get rid of the bad. And it doesn't take very long to catch on, you know, to really know how to promote and run a show. And we did Charlotte right at a month ago.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. You know, we didn't have our best show. I mean, traffic was down just a little bit, but I mean, there was a lot of other external factors too. You know, I mean, you don't ever judge any show off one show.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I had fun when I went to Charlotte. That was a fun show. Chatting, meeting up with folks, doing the podcast, all that good stuff. Definitely had fun at the Charlotte show. Can't wait to get back to the Charlotte show. So I do want to spin the block a little bit and get back to what you were saying about getting out the ball python. So break it down for us. Like, I know from what I've seen, like, you just been like rocking it out with the ball pythons, both in animals produced, you producing like some super dope animals, and then on top of that, like, you real good at sales, which I do want to get into
Right.
during the second half of the show. But break it down for the people who might not have heard like the full story in terms of why you decided to get out of ball pythons.
Well, you know, I mean, automatically people assume it's the market, and I can assure you from the balance sheet, it's not the market. We're not going to make near as much doing what we're doing now as what we were making then. You know, one of the things that I think it kind of really started to get to me last year, because I mean, a lot of people have a partner, a helper, you know, that sort of stuff. My wife is awesome. She comes to every show we do. She helps set up. She's a rock star as far as that goes. She's not a snake person. She's not going to clean tubs. She's not going to clean the rodent room. She's not going to feed snakes. You know what I mean? She's not going to pull a clutch. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's been me doing this now since pretty much 2015, 2016 area. And it just got to a point last year where I think I had 37 clutches hatch in a 6-week window. I mean, it was something insane. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I had 3 of my incubators. It was at the end of the season, but this was in like September, October. You know, I had 3 of my incubators were completely full of shed boxes with baby snakes in it. I remember moving 216 hatchling ball pythons to tubs on the same day, taking photographs of them, identifying them, sexing them, recording them, printing clutch cards, you know, I mean, all that stuff for them. And, you know, we also around that same time kind of realized, man, we haven't been anywhere in a long time. And I started thinking about it. And I kind of knew when it got to be about September, October, and I hadn't even really thought about pairings. You know, I mean, it was like, you know, I mean, I hadn't even like started to think about pairings. And the thought crept up in my head then, but then I'm like, nah, man, surely I can't do that. And I mean, we had a really good hognose season last year. You know, I've got a bunch of other species too coming up. And, you know, toward later on in the fall, I guess it was right around fall Tinley, you know, we were driving home and I just kind of brought up the idea because, you know, I mean, I've been running, you know, 250 adult room and an 80 tub rodent room by myself, you know, and working a job too. You know, I mean, it's not like I don't work. I do work from home, but I mean, I still do plenty of work, you know,
Yeah.
for my actual job on top of this. So, you know, it's back and forth. And I think I just reached a point last year where my passion for ball pythons just kind of waned. You know, it just got to that point. And, you know, a lot of people were like, well, why didn't you keep some? I'm like, well, because then I can't build what I want to do next, because then they're taking that space that I need, you know, because with the with the colubrids we're working with, we'll have a lot less adults, but those adults have a lot more babies. You know, so we, you know, we got to have room. I want to get it down to one room. I want to get it down to where I don't have to maintain a rodent room anymore. You know, I want to, you know, I hate to call it retirement, but I mean, you know, I want to kind of slow it down and just kind of do what I enjoy. I mean, you reach a point in life, whether it be age, career, financially, you know, those things where you get to the point where the things that may have driven me 4 or 5 years ago aren't driving me as much now to do the same thing. And I just want to get back on more of the passion end of things. I also want to pay it back a little bit. And, you know, like just working with ball pythons, it was all consuming. But, you know, I want to get back to working with some things I've never worked with before. And, you know, introduce new people to new species, you know, that they wouldn't maybe normally see at, you know, every show. So, you know, that's pretty much what it was. So I made the decision and I started sending lists out in November. And at that point, we had 176 adults left and 422 hatchlings. And as of today, I have 96 hatchlings, well, juveniles and hatchlings. And ball pythons left. That's it. All the rest of them have left.
So all the adults gone?
I've got one adult. He's a 17-year-old male normal named Bert. that was my son got when he was 3. And
okay.
You know, and he's got a tub here. You know, it doesn't even have a scan code on it. It just says Bert. You know, I mean, he eats about 10, 12 times a year. You know, he's getting older, and you know, he's just a chill snake. But he's one I can pull out with anybody here, and he's one my wife will hold because you know she's seen scouts pass him around, and you know, kids at my son's school, we'd take him in there, and that they would, you know, they would pass him around. Bert won't even hardly bite a feeder, much less one of us.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So how you feeling now as far as now that you've got rid of so many? Like, does part of you miss it any, or
there's still plenty to do? You know what I mean? It's like I've got 137 hognose eggs in the incubator right now. Another one due to lay probably while we're away, but my son's dog said so he'll be here to pull it if he has to. You know, and then I have my first 4 pre-lay sheds for second clutches today. So I mean, we're probably going to do 200 to 220 hognose this year. With any kind of luck with second clutches, that would be my forecast. You know, anyway. And then I didn't have great luck with bull snakes. Didn't have any fertility there. My Mexican pine freaking damn near slugged out. Like I got 3 good eggs out of 20, you know, but that's just part of dialing in your room. I think part of my problem was with all my room's a wreck right now, but I'm gonna show you, like I got where racks used to be, like I got boxes and incubators stacked up, and then we've got the racks over here, and then there's some baby racks over on this side. See my cheat sheet notes I got hanging there. But you know, it was getting too hot. And when it gets too hot with the colubrids, you're just going to have mixed fertility. It was very hard to keep the room below 80 degrees. Usually in the summer, it'd stay 82, 83. So I just think, I think even with a good, strong, solid brumation, they just warmed up too quick. And the hognose that I'm breeding, well, there's 2 in here, but they're on the bottom of a rack. And then there's 10 in my son's room. And haven't had that problem in there, but that room stays 75, you know, 74, 75, which is kind of, you know, kind of where they need to be.
Okay. I imagine you were selling off, at least for the adults, like group packages and stuff like that.
I did a few of those, but man, you'd be surprised. Most of them went onesie twosie. You know, there'd be 1, 2, or 3. You know, one breeder that we know really well bought a package of I think he got 19, and then
that's nice.
And then another breeder bought 9.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think there was a package of more than 3 that left because I wasn't in a hurry. You know, I mean, that was the thing. I mean, this is not a fire sale. That's what, you know, I mean, of course, when you start putting a lot of adults on Morph Market, you start getting people coming out thinking, you know, well, you need the money real bad or, you know, something like that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to get value out of these. These are good quality. I mean, I promise you, our collection was refined down to where what we had left was nice stuff, you know, and you know, but it you know, it made for a really good year, and it'll make for a good transition into 26, which should be a really big year. This year will be a little bit smaller, but you know, we'll have 400 plus, you know, hatchlings next year. That's kind of the goal. And you know, I don't want to lose any steam, but you know, with having a low humidity animal like the bull snakes, the ball pythons, the gopher snakes, so much easier to keep them. You know, I mean, they're easier to clean, they're easier to keep. They don't have the strong temperature requirements. I'm planning on turning my rodent room into a brumation chamber, and basically eventually brumate everything, babies and all. I mean, they would in the wild. There's no reason not to. And there's lots of studies that show that growth rates actually improve if you brumate them rather than feeding them through the winter. So, you know, and then it's more natural for them. Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, but I mean, hopefully by maybe the 26-27 season, I can have that put together.
That's what's up. That's what's up. You still gonna be doing just as many shows, or are you gonna dial it
Oh
back
yeah,
on shows?
I don't plan to slow down on shows. We may mix up our schedule a little bit, but you know, we've been doing 7 or 8 a year. I don't see that changing. You know, I don't ever want to be a every weekend, you know, show guy, but you know, we've been trying out some new shows, some different stuff, and you know, we're going to continue doing that as time moves on.
Yeah, big shout out to the people who can do like multiple shows like that, where
Oh
they're doing
man,
like
I
double
got friends
digits
that
per
do
year.
30. I got friends that do 30 shows a year, and I'm like, I can't even imagine like the preparation that just went into going to Nashville and then coming home. I mean, dude, that's 2 days of prep, 2 days of getting caught up, 3 hard days of vending and setting up and tearing down. I mean, that's hell,
Exactly.
that's hell on an old man, dude.
Exactly, bro. Like I mean, I've only been to one show, so it's not like I'm talking like from some place of extreme subject matter expertise, but I know in terms of what it took for me to get prep for the show, to your point, like coming back and being behind and then having to catch up, like it take a lot out of you, especially if you got a job. Then I had to like take off from work and stuff, so it's a lot. So I don't see how I could ever be in a space to where I could do like a
Yeah, now
bunch of shows per year.
I actually really enjoy my job, and I want to keep it as long as they'll have me. You know, I've been with them since 2005. You know, so I mean, I'm pretty, you know, I'm pretty solid,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
you're
there.
pretty solidified
But
there for sure.
but they, you know, they work with me. They're cool about it. You know, I kind of space it out though, because I mean, I get 3 weeks of vacation a year, and you know,
Okay.
you know, and technically I work every day, so they give me a little bit more leeway because, you know, I mean, I'm working Sundays, holidays, not punching the clock, you know, but in my when I have a little spare time, I do what I need to do to make sure stuff stays caught up.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like how I work it too. Uh, but yeah, man, going to those shows and it's a lot of work, and I just dread coming back and like having to catch up because I feel like I be behind for like maybe 2 weeks, at least behind where I want to be. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, it's gotten better simply because the numbers here have gotten lower. You know, when I had to come home, you know, it used to be Monday was my adult ball python feeding day.
Okay.
And then I would do part of the rodent room Monday, the rest of the rodent room Tuesday, feed hatchlings Wednesday. You know, Thursday would be pairing ball pythons and pairing ball pythons, deep clean, stuff like that. Friday would be feeding the colubrids and getting them all taken care of because, you know, with most of them, it's a once a week thing. But I would always just have to push Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday. And then once Friday became Saturday, I'd have Sunday to relax and I'd be caught up the next week. And now, you know, Monday is so light because there's nothing to feed, and I do the entire rodent room on Tuesday. That it's gotten a little bit better, but it's still, man. I mean, I get wore out at shows. We bought some anti fatigue mats for these for this show. Going to try that out. My wife's been on my. I got in so much trouble in Charlotte because she was like, "Where are the anti fatigue mats you ordered?" I said, "I didn't order them." She said, "Well, I put them in the Amazon cart." I'm like, "Well, you put them in like the save for later with like 900 dresses and shit." I mean, you know, I don't know what, you know. We never even talked about me ordering them. So we were talking about it the other day. She goes, "Order those now," you know. So I got them in. We're gonna try those out. But
Oh
no,
yeah,
man,
those are must.
I love the shows. I couldn't step back from the shows. I mean, we have an absolute blast at the shows. We've been doing really well at the last several. So, you know, it's hard to take that out, even though probably 90% of our overall sales are online. You know, historically, you know, we've had a tear of between, you know, Southeast Reptile Expo and Tinley. Both of those were amazing. That was over. So we made 54 at Southeast and 29 at Tinley. So, I mean, that's over 80 animals in 2 shows. And then Charlotte, we didn't do great. I think we sold 12 animals, but I mean, you know, we had a decent show, and you know, it was laid back enough too that like I could actually enjoy it as opposed to just being slammed the whole time. Because I mean, Southeast Reptile Expo, I had to like just tell people, man, I'll be right back. I got to go to the bathroom. You know, I mean, I couldn't get away from my table. And Tinley wasn't much different. I mean, this was the busiest Tinley I've ever done. It was absolute insanity.
That's what's up. That's good numbers, man. So that's actually a great segue into kind of the main topic of this show, which is like sales, whether it's e-commerce, selling at shows or whatnot. So let's talk about that a little bit, bro. And so
Yeah, I kind of
do
put
you
together some notes. I put together some stats. I asked Darren at Morph Market to get me some stats, and he got them for me. Now these were
oh
current
word?
as of yeah, these were current as of 4 weeks ago. But
Okay, you
the
talking about language
yeah,
now with some
because
numbers. Let's go.
when we were we were originally going to do this 4 weeks ago, and then something came up with me, something came up with you, and then you were gone the next. So I mean, this has been a little while, but I had him look at all of the sales leads that came in, all species. It doesn't matter what, lizards, tortoises, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's really hard to get it refined down by species. So, but looking at it for the last 12 months, and this excludes buy now purchases because there was really no, usually no selling involved in that. It was just the customer made an order. You may verify that you want to sell to them after the fact. But I mean, that they've made the order, and it also excludes auctions because in every auction, basically a sale happens unless you put a high reserve or something like that on it.
Right.
But the average closing ratio of Morph Market leads is just over 40%, which was surprisingly high, to be honest with you, for me, because in most e-commerce settings, a closing percentage of over 10%, you're a rock star. But
Oh
it's a little
really?
bit different. It's a little bit different because this is not something people have to have, like a car or a dishwasher or something like that. This is something people want. So it being a luxury item, the closing percentage is going to be a little bit higher.
So you saying in terms of like the population that we're looking at, 40% of inquiries result in a closed sale
Over the last 12 months, so
over the last 12 months.
just over 40%.
Okay.
It was like 41 point something,
41 point something. Okay, gotcha.
and then I had him look at ours, and ours was 72%. With we've gotten 302 inquiries in the last 12 months and 216 sales off those inquiries. The range of closing ratio, looking at all sellers, ranges between 0% and 94%. Now here's the catch to those numbers. They don't mean as much as they might if we were looking at it's hard to compare when you're talking about animals because if you're somebody who makes the only 10 of a certain species and you list all 10 of those are going to sell pretty quick, probably to the first 10 people that inquire on it. If you're making something that there's 75 of available at any given time, you may have more inquiries before you actually close that sale. So I mean, I don't want anybody to put too much stake in saying, well, I'm closing 30% or I'm closing 50%, that kind of stuff. Because I mean, we're also comparing geckos, ball pythons, reticulated pythons, tortoises, the whole nine, every plants, I mean, everything that's on Morph Market now.
So what was so challenging about getting it broken down by species?
Honestly, just time. I mean, I think it was,
Okay, so the data is there.
I didn't really ask him to do that. I asked him I wanted to know what my closing ratio was because I've got way too many leads to go back through there and count manually. And there's no other place for me to look at that. Right. And then he just came back with a little bit more of this other information as a bonus.
Okay, gotcha.
I would like to see more stats. I'd like to see a breakdown of the average time it takes to sell with one photo versus 5 photos, or the average time it takes to sell if by membership level, I mean, like there, I'd like to, I'm a stat, I'm a number geek, I mean, I live in numbers day in and day out. That's what I do. It's all about ratios, percentages, it's just like if you play poker, man. I used to play poker for my side gig. And I mean, if you play poker, you can break it down to how many hands you need to play to make X amount of money, because you can break it down to how much money you're making per hand or per tournament or, that sort of thing. So, I like to be able to break down anything I'm doing like this. And a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about tonight is going to be somewhat specific to the way I approach things. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it. I know people love to get mad and insulted and everything else. Because I mean, I'll probably take some pretty hard stances on a few things, but, I'm just talking about basically what works for us, what I see that is a common theme amongst all the highest performers, both at shows and online. And it's not that. I wanted to start out by saying this, sales ability and sales knowledge is not something you're born with. It's not, you can say he's a natural all you want to, until you understand the underlying road to the sale from the customer and the buyer standpoint. It's really hard to understand how to best approach each individual buyer. I mean, I could get really granular with this, but I'm not going to, because I could do this for hours. I mean, I've done sales, I've trained salespeople for over 20 years in my primary profession.
Okay.
And, you see the same mistakes, and it's almost like the product doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're selling. There's a few general rules. And the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about, this is geared more toward, I hear people say all the time, well, I don't care how many I sell. If I don't sell them, I'll keep them. This is not geared for you. This is geared for the person who's making animals with the intention of selling those animals and wanting to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to put out there, because a lot of people do take that stance.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, this was more of an approach of someone who's wanting to produce and sell 500 animals a year, and what I need to do that, to accomplish that feat. And the first thing you need to understand is, in any kind of selling, what we always call it is a sales funnel. You need to think of it like a funnel. And I hear people online, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves too. I hear people online talk about like declining an inquiry or blocking somebody or something like that on Morph Market because maybe they didn't answer back in the time frame that the seller thought they should have, or because they asked questions and then didn't get back with them. I mean, the cold hard truth on that is just sales. It wouldn't matter if you were selling cars, motorcycles, boats, houses. You're going to have that. But you have to understand the funnel, and you don't want to alienate those buyers, because I'll get to this in a minute, but when you're talking about the sales funnel, you've got everything from at the top of the funnel is somebody just starting to think about, I'm going to get a snake, and they're asking a question. They're not asking necessarily even a buying question. They're asking an informative question. So, and then you've got at the bottom of the funnel, I'm ready to buy right now, money in hand, ready to spit out the bottom of the funnel. And then in between, there's everything in between, people that are closer, people that are further away. And you can't reach maximum sales effectiveness until you keep your funnel full. That's kind of the point of this. And the way you keep your funnel full is by following up, is by, not alienating those customers. I'll tell you what, one of my methods that I use is anytime I answer an inquiry and I don't get a response back within an hour, I just archive it. I don't delete it. I don't decline it. I don't know if people know this or not, but when you decline a Morph Market inquiry, what pops up on their screen, I meant to write this down, but I pretty much got it memorized. What pops up on their screen is said, this seller has elected not to sell to you. We recommend you try a different seller. Please read our inquiry best practices at this link. We're basically, but I mean, we're talking about people who asked 2 or 3 questions and maybe got a picture or 2 and then didn't answer back within 3 or 4 hours. So the person's ready to block them. And that's somebody you're yanking out of your funnel and throwing in the trash, whether you block them or whether you decline that inquiry. It's much easier just to move it over to archive. You don't see it. It's not in your face. You have to purposefully look for archive. But, one thing that I do about once every couple of weeks is I go into my archive messages and I scroll down through there and look at them. And, I'll pick out 10 or 12 that I just send a simple, hey, just wanted to check back in with you and make sure I answered all your questions. Hope you have a great day, Brian. Nothing pushy, anything like that. And you're going to cultivate something out of there. Something's going to come from that. I can't tell you how many times I get a repeat message. I just marked one sold today. It wasn't an expensive animal. It's $300 vanilla clown, But this guy's messaged me on 4 different snakes, asked a billion questions, and that's just part of it. You can't get mad about that. How can you can't be in sales unless you're actually in sales, and you're not in sales if you're not maintaining relationships, which is all selling really is, is maintaining relationships with people who want to buy your wares. I had an old manager one time that trained me that, and this was with cars, but he was like, the customer came here to buy a car, you have cars to sell, it's up to you to screw this up. And that's I took that to heart, and it doesn't matter. I'll tell you another one. Yesterday, I had an inquiry yesterday on my most expensive snake. It was listed at $5,500.
Okay.
And this guy had been a member of Morph Market since February the 25th of 2025, so less than 2 months. Well, yeah, no, a little over 2 months. And he asked me some mundane shipping question. I can't remember. It was like, if I buy this snake today, when would you ship? And I'm like, man, this dude's inquired on 3 snakes. Nobody knows him. He's on a $5,500 snake. This is a chargeback waiting to happen. The red flags went up everywhere, And because, that's not typically the type of snake somebody's going to buy is their first snake. It even said in his description, like the about me portion of his buyer profile, looking for my first snake, a BallPython. And here we are on a $5,500 snake. But I took the time and I answered his question. And then he asked me, well, he wanted me to ship it to his house. I explained to him, no, we don't do that. You've got a hub close by. He thought the hub was a warehouse. So I'm taking the time to do it. All the time in the back of my mind, I'm letting that stinking thinking creep up in my head, thinking I'm wasting my time. But, I went ahead and talked to him. And then we got on to payment, and he asked me. I told him, I said, "Man, I'm going to be straight up with you. I will not take a credit card on this snake." I said, you can pay with Zelle or you can pay with Cash App. I said, but you're a new profile. You're buying your first snake, and you're buying one that's over $5,000. This doesn't make sense to me. And he goes, yeah, I understand. I've bought most of my stuff in person. He explained he was an oil worker. He made plenty of money. And he said, man, I understand. I don't have any problem sending that Zelle. And we ended up making the sale, and I wouldn't have given you a dime for that. But that goes to show the most important thing anybody selling anything needs to know is you never know. You never know if somebody can buy. You never know if somebody will buy. You don't try to prejudge, yeah, man. I'm getting down the rabbit hole a little bit far, but and then it comes into managing relationships so you can, make those subsequent sales. Had to get a drink there. But yeah, man, I think there's a lot of things people can do. The first thing is where are you advertising your wares? You know what I mean? It's like, I hear a lot of, there's a lot of negativity about Morph Market. And, the reality is I barely post on social media. Like I wish I was better at it. I do whenever there's something that means something that happens. I pull a clutch of eggs or, something's hatching or something like that. Somebody tags me in a story. I always share that to my story, that kind of stuff. But man, as far as being on a regular routine of posting things, I just suck at it. I just can't make myself just make up things to post just to you know what I mean? Like I just can't do that. So, you think, but social media is important, so you have those followers. That's one of the reasons I feel like we've had a lot of success at auctions is because we pull people from social media over to our auctions specifically. We had a lot of adults that sold for considerably more than what we had them listed at. And, and let that be a lesson to people. You need to look at listings if you're looking for something and not just auctions, because there's a lot of times you're paying more. Every day I have somebody tell me, man, I ran this snake. It's been on my page for 3 months for $700. It's sold for $1,200. I hear that more than I hear I had this $700 snake that sold for $25. It's I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, man, let's see. I talked about work your archive leads. One of the things I hear a lot in the reviews that we get, and I'll touch on the importance of reviews too, but is about communication. When someone's buying an animal, you want to ask yourself first, am I set up for success? And how do you set yourself up for success? And I'm going to talk specifically about the Morph Market store because that's my only online selling tool I can talk about. I used to have a website too. I still do, but I just link it to my Morph Market inventory now. I had the website just so people could, pay securely through a cart checkout instead of me having to type out an invoice. But once the buy now feature came out, it made no sense for me to pay 3 times as much for my website each year just to do the same thing I can do on Morph Market, that I'm already paying for. So we cut that out. But, do you have terms that are clear and concise? That's one of the big things I see is people have confusing terms. One of the things I hear a lot from new buyers, and I would say, oh man, I bet at least half of what we're selling, and I pulled that out of my ass, but it's got to be half. It's probably more of the people we're selling right now, especially the $500 and under animals, are new buyers. Like they've been on Morph Market 6 months or less. And I hear a lot of them talk about, and this is a term that I see a lot of people have, and this is where I'll probably piss somebody off, and I'm not trying to, but it's just such a bad practice. And I hear it talked about behind the scenes so much by people that, people need to know. Is putting in your terms that you're not responsible for shipper error, shipping errors, mishaps, delays, stuff like that. Until the animal arrives in the buyer's hand, you are responsible. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can't ship. First off, it doesn't matter if you ship a Morph Market, Redline shipping, ship your reptiles, Reptiles Express, reptiles to you. It doesn't matter. They're still going through FedEx. And at some point in time, somebody's going to screw something up. Last week I had my first damaged package. FedEx actually called this girl and told her she couldn't pick it up to the end of the day because her package was damaged. And I'm like, that's kind of dumb. You'd think they want you to get there quick because it's a snake and the package is damaged. But anyway, I got Morph Market involved. They, called her hub and they were like, it's there. She can go get it. It's not even damaged that bad. It was one of those, the call center got a note that it was damaged. So they called the buyer, it was just a big mess, but packages do get lost, packages do probably get ran over by forklifts. I mean, we don't want that to happen, but that's a reality. I'm sure that's happened before. I'm sure one's fell off the back of a truck before, things like that. Guys, show your customers the compassion enough to be responsible for the animal until it's in their hands.
100%.
And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then spend the 2.5% for insurance. All the companies offer it, and then you're made whole. You know what I mean? But that I hear that so much from new buyers that, I haven't put it in my terms yet. I made the decision to about a week ago, that just says we are responsible for shipping. I want people to understand that that's not the norm. And when Morph Market polls all these new users, the number one reason they haven't bought is because they don't feel comfortable buying. Do your terms in your store make that buyer feel comfortable buying from you, or at least comfortable enough to contact you? What kind of photos do you have? That's a big one. I mean, we saw leads go through the roof when we went from putting 1 photo to putting 6 photos. It's more time consuming, but how hard is it? You got the light box out, you got the snake in there, you got your camera set up. How hard is it to take 5 extra snaps at different angles? You know what I mean? And then, load those on Morph Market too. Giving the buyers the information that they need to make the decision, like load your breeder animals in your not for sale inventory so you can show the sire and the dam that made this clutch, and then link all the animals in that clutch to the animal group in the Morph Market listing so they can scroll down through there and actually see the rest of the clutch. That's especially important if you're not going to hardcore guarantee incomplete dominant genetics. Because then that at least gives them the ability, and it also gives you the ability to be like, well, look, you saw all the clutch mates, you know what I mean? We both agreed that we thought it was what it was. Nobody can guarantee every single gene and every single BallPython they sell. I don't care what they say.
Yeah, you get tough with some combos.
But yeah, I mean, and that's all part of it. So if you're set up for success on your store, you've got abundant information in there. Always put a description. I know a lot of people harp about weights, but we try to keep our weights updated at least every 30 days. When we had 400 and something hatchlings, it didn't happen. We did the best we could with it. But, I'm always happy to get somebody a fresh weight if they need one.
Right.
But, keeping your ads up to date, keeping the photos up to date, that's something I fell a little bit short on. That after this show, I'm going to reshoot a bunch of snakes because, I'm down to a manageable amount now, and some of them are really high-end stuff. So I'd rather people see what they look like with some size on them, than what they look like out of the egg at first shed. But yeah, man, there's a lot of stuff, but you've got to work all the angles to maximize your sales success. Whether that be, auctions, about the new price drop alerts.
The new price drop alerts? Yeah.
That's something I've been begging for since John started. I mean, that's something we've used in the car business for over a decade. When we're having a slow month, they'll go in and drop the used cars by 5%. Everyone who signed up for price drop alerts gets an alert that car is lowered in price. And then I'm busy as hell the next week because leads are just flying in the door. And, I did that last week, and, I sold 12 snakes in 18 hours, after I dropped prices 5%. And I hadn't dropped them since they were listed, to be honest with you. And I knew I needed to. I was just waiting for this to get finished to do that. Because, but be careful if you're running sales, because the way the price drop alerts work is if the animal has to reach a new historic low that's 5% or more below the prior historic low. So if you run a 20% off sale, you've killed your price drop alerts unless you're ready to drop it by 25%. So that's something else to think about there too. But I mean, they're really effective. And, speaking of effective, something else I thought of, and this is something we talk about a lot in the Discords and stuff, kind of behind the scenes, but, there's a lot of people that just don't have a realistic sense of where the market is on animals right now.
You talk about in terms of pricing and where they got their projects priced at?
I absolutely mean in terms of pricing. And, I'm it's not up to me to tell you how to price your animal. And there's probably people that think I'm low, but, the reality is something's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it and what you're willing to let it go for. And,
fair market value.
If you're not looking at prices every month or two, you've seen the listings, what I'm talking about. I mean, there's people that have had listings up for 14 months that have the same weight, the same price, the same picture. It's like, that drives my OCD nuts, to see that, I see it when I'm looking at snakes.
Yeah, depending on who it is, maybe the snake ain't even gained that much weight. But that's a whole nother episode.
Well, yeah, that's true, and I mean, and the online and the in-person, the best way to think about that, in my opinion, is you got to find a way to virtually give that online customer the in-person experience, just like you would at a show. Get to know them, get to know who you're selling, learn a little bit about them, don't hesitate to answer questions when somebody asks you a question, even if it's about a snake they bought from someone else, because their next one will probably be from you. How many people just buy one snake? I mean, there's not many. Once you get the bug, man, you got it, and you're going to go out and buy. Who knows how many? And that's where the fostering relationships comes in, and just trying to be a likable person. That translates directly over to when you're at shows. I've done shows and had a great show and had the person right next to me have a terrible show, and almost always the difference is attitude. It's not the animals you have. It's not that. It's the way you're approaching the people that are coming up to you, and you're making them feel welcome and engaging in conversation with them, making sure they know your name. That's something I don't hear a lot of people do. Everyone, I get hoarse at a show just from saying, hey guys, my name's Brian. If you have any questions, just let me know. Hey, my name's Brian. If you have any questions, just let me know. And then if they engage in conversations, I take an interest in what they're doing. What kind of projects are you working? Are you just a pet buyer? What kind of animals do you like? If they're a pet buyer, I know what they want to know. They want to know if it's taken frozen thawed. They want to know if it's got a good temperament. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
and that's another good thing to have online is I bet you anybody that does shows has canned responses for those questions. What's its temperament like? Well, it's always been cool with me, but that's really going to depend on the situation it goes into, that sort of thing. Why not type out something and save it on your clipboard for those morph market inquiries that drive some people so crazy, that ask about temperament or ask what it's eating or anything. Type out those little canned responses, send it in, and then put your name at the bottom of it. So whenever somebody does inquire about that, all you're doing, copy, paste, send, you've answered their questions. That's a great way to do it. I mean, people say, I don't have time to go into this. Take time one time, to go into it with yourself, and then just copy and paste that over. I have that for the first response inquiries. I have that for auction winners, that, it'd say, hey, Mike, congratulations, you're the high bidder. The total with shipping is this much. We do require payment within 24 hours. Our payment methods are, and then it lists our Cash App, lists our Zelle. If necessary, we can send a request on Morph Market. Next, I'll request your address. I'm telling them what's going to happen. But
exactly, yeah, I do that with the auction winners too. Just
but
copy paste.
When you're talking about customer service, which is all part of selling, because as soon as you made the sale, you're working on the next one. If you're not, you need to try to do that, But the way you're working on the next one is by giving them outstanding customer service. So, everyone that we sell, I think the least I've shipped any week since we started back shipping in January, once the weather was okay, was 7, and the highest was 21. And when someone buys a snake from us, I always verify the shipment on Sunday. So I send them a message on Sunday. What's up, John? I send a message on Sunday to verify. Then when I make the labels on Monday, which I do for known shipments, now we may sell more. I need to make a quick box and label, but those are the ones that I already know are going out. I send them another message, let them know, hey, when I drop it off, I've got a little copy and paste, a little cute thing. It says snakes on a plane, just dropped off. You can begin tracking now. Tells them about being able to set up FedEx alerts at the FedEx website. Now, does everybody need to know that? No, but I send it to everybody because I want everyone to get the same experience. And then, so once I've dropped it off, when I see they've picked up, and I don't sit there and watch it, but I'll check in a couple of times when I have a bunch go out. When I see they've picked up, if they haven't messaged me, I send them a message. Hey, it's Brian, just checking in. Saw you picked up. No rush. You may not even be home yet. I always just like to check in and make sure all is well. Thank you, Brian. Something like that. And then, in review after review, you hear about communication. That's key. You can't give one-word answers. You gotta present yourself in that kind of light. So again, to reach maximum sales effectiveness.
That makes sense. Hey, I want to take a real quick sponsor break, and then we can jump right back into it right after this sponsor break.
Sweet.
Give you a breather.
Known for his innovative approach to genetic shed testing and top-quality ball pythons, Grey Rider Reptiles also excels in exceptional customer service and responsiveness. With a quick turnaround time, Charlie ensures you get the service you want and need. Visit shedtesting.com to explore his offerings and experience the best in the business. Don't miss out. Head to shedtesting.com today and unlock the power of your breeding projects.
Peace and love, family. We invite you into the heart of our serenity, Ancestral Royal Pythons. At Ancestral Royal Pythons, we're not just breeders, we're nurturers of love and growth. Each of our high-end ball pythons is a tribute to the grandeur of the natural world and our dedication to quality. Reach out today and bring one of our creations into your home. This is Ancestral Royal Pythons. Your journey begins here.
Here's to the exciting world of ebony and ivory reptiles. From unforgettable parties and events to keeping and hatching some of the dopest reptiles in the reptile hobby, we're all about education, quality, integrity, and respect. Hit us up and see how we can help make your next project a reality. Experience ebony and ivory reptiles, where fascination meets fun.
Ebony and ivory reptiles.
Big shout out to the sponsors. Big shout out to the sponsors. Make sure y'all show them some support. Yeah, man. So let's jump back in it, man. Do you see people like doing specific things like in terms of sales tactics to entice somebody in like maybe like a dishonest way or something? Do you see any of that, and what are your thoughts
Yeah,
on some of that stuff?
you definitely say that. I mean, it's just like I say in a lot of my templates that I have typed out that I use. You will find somebody to tell you the answer you want to hear if you ask enough people. It's just like the temperament question. One of the phrases I put in that response is, most people will tell you, yeah, it's puppy dog tame. A lot of people will tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you that the snake's acting fine here in a dark tub that measures 9.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall by 21 inches deep. When you put it in a 20 long aquarium with a half log hide, can I guarantee it's not going to get stressed out? I can't, so I mean, I can't offer a guarantee on temperament. But yeah, I mean, you see the fake hats, you see the, all kind of craziness out there, man. But I mean, it would be the same in the industry. I do wish the industry would police itself a little better, because I hear these things behind closed doors, but I'm just as guilty because I don't want to be the one to say somebody else got screwed. They ought to be the one saying, "Hey, I got screwed." That's why. I mean, I want a huge shout out to Brett and John, for
Yeah,
being
big shout
open
out to
about
them.
what happened to them because, I don't know the guy. I mean, I don't know him well or anything like that, but I do know that to me is a pretty clear cut shitty way to do something, and
Agreed.
Brett and John have been good friends of mine since the early 2020s. They're great people. They're part of our core hangout crew at shows, that kind of stuff. They've bought an insane amount of snakes from us. They're just really, really good people. And to see that happen to good people, it's just kind of messed up. So
Yeah, it sucks.
yeah, it definitely does. And, and that's when that sort of thing happens. And, you think it only happens with, the high dollar ones are the ones you hear about. You don't hear about the the basic Morph Market member with 3 listings that screws somebody on a $200 snake that, they just get kicked off Morph Market and the buyer guarantee maybe kicks in, or whatever. You're not going to hear about that. You're going to hear about the $7,500, screw in somebody took.
Oh,
But you're not going to hear about the $200 screw in somebody took. And I do wish we'd police ourselves a little bit better. I mean, that's not the first time somebody's done that. It's not going to be the last. And, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to get the word out and make it abundantly clear to people that we are not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Because I do have a lot of high-end stuff with hets that I want people to trust, I mean, and I mean, honestly, if they don't at this point, they can buy from somebody else because I mean, I assure you, if I put something on there, it's on there. I can't guarantee every codime on a complex animal, but I can guarantee those recessives are there. Whether and it's always disclosed whether it's a genetic tested het or a guaranteed visual to visual het or visual to
yeah,
het.
I've noticed that on your ads. Like when
But
it
I believe transparency is key, and that's where social media ties in because if you chronicle what you're doing on social media and then that animal shows up on Morph Market and those 2 parents are showing at the bottom as the sire and dam and you've got a clutch of 9, 10, 11 people or not people, snakes. I don't sell people, I promise. But 9, 10, 11 snakes at the bottom, that they can go through and see the differences between the genetic morphs and stuff like that. I mean, that to me is being as transparent really as you can possibly be. And I think it makes people feel good about things, I mean, being upfront with them and being honest with them, I mean, it's like, that's one of the things with the hognose I get a lot is the temperament question, and hognose don't bite as a defense mechanism. I mean, they just don't. Like, that's not one of the ways they defend themselves. I mean, they'll play dead. They'll
play dead, right?
Their mouth. You know what I mean? They'll huff and hit you with their nose and false strike. But I mean, they're never going to bite you unless you smell like something that smells like food. And in the wild, they would be eating tadpoles, fish, frogs, salamanders, maybe a small rodent, but it would be rare, and we're training them to eat rodents. But a lot of times we have to use scenting techniques and, to get them started in the first place. And some of the common sense people use, people use, I got tongue tied there because I'm like common sense, that has two meanings. But some of the most common scenting items people use are salmon, tuna, sardines, but people also use bone broth. I've heard of people using, different types of fish, salmon. There's people that make, there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but Reps in Texas, Reps in TX is the name of his company.
Okay.
He's making these scenting strips that are actually dried, and you put them in the freezer. And you just cut a little piece off and hydrate it. You can scent like 20 feeders with it. I can't wait to try those this year. So that should be good. But I mean, we're teaching them to do that, which also means that like if you just ate a cheeseburger, there's a good chance if you didn't wash your hands really good that hog-nose thinks that smells like food, and then they're going to chow down on your finger and you're going to have to pop them off. That sort of thing. So, I try to go out of my way to explain, probably in greater detail than a lot of people want to hear, but I feel more comfortable with myself if I'm, if I'm that transparent about everything.
Gotcha. So, what are some other things that you think would help people become better sellers, based on a lot of the stuff that you've seen around the industry and whatnot?
Oh man, just positive mental attitude is so much. Go into every interaction with a customer as a positive, not a negative. It's get the word tire kicker out of your vocabulary. Get rid of that completely. Like I said, I can't count the number of people who have sent 10 messages on multiple snakes before they decided to make a purchasing experience. It's you've got to understand, you can tell a lot of people that do this don't have any sort of formal sales training. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, a lot of people don't have formal sales training, not unless you've been in a sales profession. But there's some just really basic things you can use, just be like it shows, be nice. A smile goes a long way. If you can smile, get your customer laughing. If you're goofy, be goofy. I love being goofy at shows and making people laugh, telling people I won't trade for their baby, stuff like that. That always somebody walks by with a little baby, we don't take trade-ins, they crack up. But they may or may not buy a snake, but a lot of it, a lot of people I don't think understand how much people that are starting out look up to the people that have been doing this a while. And a lot of the people who have been doing this a while grow callous over time. It's really easy for that to happen. And, I think that's kind of what happened with John and Brett. It was somebody who'd done this a long time. Now he's getting out of it. And what does he care? Like, he's like, sue me. It's going to cost you more to sue me than you would recoup. That sort of thing. So, and that's why it's so hard to start out as a new person. And that's why it's so important to garner reviews. Morph Market only counts one review per user. Like you don't get multiple reviews. Like if I sold you a snake now, one next month and one the next month, and you wrote 3 reviews, it would only be a count of 1, in the number that's on your store. But we got 422 5-star reviews. People didn't do that without being asked to do it. Don't be scared to ask people to send a review. So, and this is another
and give them a review back too.
Oh, absolutely. Gabe. Yeah, that is Gabe. Gabe at Reps in Texas has the scent strip. So if anybody's breeding anything they need to scent with, I've heard really good things about them. Jeff Gelwood at JMG is using them, and he usually has them at shows too. So I grabbed a couple at Southeast Reptile Expo. I don't have any babies yet, but I'm sure there will be some that'll need some funky scent on a mouse before they recognize it as food.
Big shout out to Jamie for dropping the promo in the chat.
No, absolutely, man. And talking about promo, I'm going to bounce off this. You have by far the best sponsor videos of any podcast I've seen. Like that.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate
it. Those are some strong promo videos, dude. But
appreciate
yeah, man,
that.
So like I said, just be nice. I'm rambling all over the place, but be a nice person. If you can't be nice, fake it. You know what I mean? Like, just try your best. If you're in an in-person interaction at a show, don't be sitting down on your phone. Like, I know people have said that a million times, right? But I mean, I can't imagine at Southeast Reptile Expo anybody having a bad show, but there was a couple that did that I heard talking about it. But every time I looked at their booth, they were sitting, they weren't standing. I'm old, I'm fat. I don't, I mean, my feet hurt, my back hurts. I don't even want a chair at a show. I don't sit down at a show. I might sit down for 2 seconds to choke down some food if it's something messy from the concession stand or something like that. But I mean, other than that, I'm on my feet, because I want people to walk up and be like, hey, I mean, here's someone who's excited to talk to me about snakes, and that's, that excitement is contagious. So, and you can show that excitement in your online interactions too. But one of the things that I do, and I recommend everyone do with Morph Market, I see so many people not do it, it's shocking, but if you care about reviews, never mark the snake sold when it's paid for. Mark the snake sold when they get it.
Exactly.
Mark it on hold. Let them know you're marking it on hold. Or actually now you can just do it for Messenger, and it'll take care of that and just say, animal marked on hold right there in the chat. But mark it on hold, and then when they get it and you do that check-in with them, like I said, hey, saw you picked up, you may not even be home yet, no rush, just wanted to check in, make sure all is well. Thank you again, Brian. Then when they message back and they say, hey, just got home, everything looks great and everything, okay, awesome, I'm going to mark it sold now. That'll send you a review request if you're so inclined. We sure appreciate them. If you ever need anything at all, let me know. Thanks again, Brian. Notice the common theme is I put, and I get made fun of for this, but I think it matters. I put I sign every single message I send pretty much. If I review back 100% of the buyers that review me. I probably should let them know that I review everybody back. That would make them more likely to leave a review. But just mentioning it when they're at the height of their enthusiasm and they just got that new animal in their hands and they just put it into the tub or the tank or whatever they're keeping it in. And, that's when you're going to get the best review.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Like whenever they pick it up and they reach out to me and say, hey, I picked it up, everything's good to go. I thank them for letting me know, tell them that I'm happy that they enjoy the snake. And I say, hey, I'm about to mark it sold to you. When you get a chance, if you don't mind, please leave me a review and I'll be sure to do the same. And I get probably like 90% of the people to leave a review. And I think that's good because I feel like if I didn't ask, I would miss a lot of opportunities to get reviews.
Oh, I mean, dude, you don't get what you don't ask for, and that goes for pricing things. I mean, I right now the market's funny, right? So, it's going through a little bit of an evolution, it seems like, to where what looks good is selling much better than what's most powerful. You know what I mean? Like that thing, and where 2-3 years ago, we were in a completely different space, right?
And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't think so. I think so too, because I don't think it is either. I mean, I've totally changed my stance on something. I remember doing John Feely's podcast at September 21 Arlington.
Okay.
He was cast. It wasn't like his podcast. He was just doing a thing from the show, and I did 5 or 6 minutes. But, he brought up breeding what you like. And, at that point in time, I was like, oh, man, I mean, what if you only like bumblebees? You know what I mean? Like, you're not, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you're not going to do great if you just breed bumblebees, But, but, over the last 5 years since then, working with what you like means a lot, especially when the market changes to where something that you're passionate about that you really like is going to be much easier for you to sell than something that's super powerful to somebody who doesn't really care about breeding or not. You know what I mean? It's like, and then when you start getting into the super powerful things, and this is a good comparison here, and it might have actually changed my trajectory if I would have kept up with this the entire time. I don't know. So hindsight's always 20/20, but it's hard to go back, and then really think about what if I'd have done this. But, it's like, I've got visual double heads that are nice animals that are males that I could probably get more market value out of a banana calico than I can out of those visual doubleheads as males. You know, I mean, that's because I can take that to a show and somebody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, that's beautiful. That's the pet that I want."
Right.
Where they come up and they see a clown doublehead hypo DG, and it's just a brown reduced ball python to them. You know what I mean? The hets mean nothing because they mean nothing to a pet owner. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a clown. You know what I mean? But that banana calico is beautiful. You know, so I don't know. You know, and I'm kind of trying to with the hognose because they've got a lot of genetic diversity too. I'm trying to stick with what's kind of turns my crank as opposed to, you know, the most expensive projects out there. Like, you know, one of the ways I invest in ball pythons, and financially it was really good to do it this way. But I mean, if I was shopping for a ball python, I mean, I went in and I sorted from price high to low, and I started at the top, you know, so I could decide what I wanted to work with. Because to me, that was going to be the best ROI I had. Because I mean, honestly, in ball pythons, I kind of like them all. There's not anything I can say I don't like. You know what I mean? And you know, there's some I prefer over others, but I mean, you know, there's people that dog this gene and that gene. I mean, hell, they're all cool. I mean, I like butter. I like, you know, I mean, I like clowns. The sunsets can be really cool in some combos. They can look like a turd in others. You know what I mean? I do think monsoons kind of all look the same. You know, even in the visual recessive combos I've seen. But it's a cool ass saying. You know what
It's
I mean?
a cool thing. It's just same.
It's just the same. You know, it's like pinstrap on steroids. And I'm not shitting on anybody's project. I'm just talking about my personal preferences.
Yeah,
I was always a clown nut. Like I've always been crazy about clowns, and you know, and if I would have just stuck with making clowns, I don't know, maybe I'd still have a small collection of ball pythons. But you know, the time aspect would still be there. It's just like with the, you know, when I talk about the time aspect of that, it's like I'm going to have all my eggs laid in about a 10 to 12 week window. And I'm done for the year. Now, you know, 2 to 3.5, 4 months after that, all the babies are hatched. Now I'm just in establishing baby mode. Once those babies are established, it's just back to maintenance. With ball pythons, I went back 48 months, and there was only 4 months out of the last 48 months I didn't pull a clutch.
Oh, word.
That was last October, going back, starting in October backwards. In 48 months, there only been 4 months I hadn't pulled a clutch. And so it's this constant evolution of establishing, pairing, breeding, pulling, incubating, establishing, pairing, breeding, pulling, incubating, that it reached a point last year that I really couldn't find a way to cut back and still make it something that I wanted to move forward with, you know. And you know, when I fell in love with these hognose, man. Yeah, I mean, I really did. And it's not even about the money. I know a lot of people say that, you know what I mean? And I'm sure we'll make a little money doing it, but you know, I'm not going to be making $5 and $6 and $10 and $12,000 hognose snakes. You know what I mean? Like I'm not even trying to, you know, I mean, I'd like to, you know, I want to stay in that, you know, under $3 for sure, but a lot of stuff in that $300 to $800 range where they're, you know, mid to high range pet level animals. That's, you know, I think that's where, you know, they do have a slight advantage. They have a space advantage. They have a time advantage. You know, there's a lot of things that I can say advantage hognose over ball python for what I like. Doesn't mean, you know, that's right for somebody else, because I mean, the ball python market is still very, very, very healthy. You know, I can assure you. Oh, and there was something else. I saw it in my notes. I didn't bring it up earlier. If you use Square and you don't have Morph Pay set up, you're losing money. Where people can check out on Morph Market. You know, I looked today, 16 of my last 20 sales on Morph Market were Morph Pay orders, where people went in, and these were all $500 and under animals. The $5,500 one don't count. But they were all 500 under animals, and 16 of my last 20 were people who went on Morph Market, hit buy now, and checked out.
Oh, word.
And they were done. Now that's an unprecedented tear.
You know, do your buy now folks ever reach out to you first, or they just go boom?
Most of the time, no. You know, if they do, it's where I'm telling them, and there may have been a couple of those in there. Where somebody reached out to me and asked a question or two and they wanted to use a card, because if they use a card, I just steer them to the buy now because it's easier for them and it's easier for me because, now I've got all their shipping information, everything right there in that one window, and I can, hit click and now the label's made and they get tracking and it just works. It's really seamless process. But no, a lot of them, I'd say the vast majority of them are, I woke up this morning to an order. Somebody at 2:15 a.m. decided they needed a male pastel het puzzle, for $100 ship, And, so I always, before I accept it, and this is a lot of people don't understand how it works too. A lot of people think if somebody checks out, it's just like Amazon. Now all you got to do is ship the snake to them. No, you've got 48 hours to accept the order. So I always verify the address they put in was a hub. And then I always send a message thanking them for their order and scheduling shipping and all that stuff. And until they've answered me back, I don't accept their payment, because I want to make sure, especially if they didn't put in a hub, because I want to make sure they understand that is the only way I ship.
Right.
Barring an extraordinary circumstance. I've got a disabled veteran in Florida that I've shipped a few to his house. I've got a few people that I ship to homes, but it's very few and far between. I think I've done one this calendar year out of probably 120 boxes, something like that.
Yeah, there's got to be some extenuating circumstances for me not to ship to the hub.
154 miles to the closest hub.
You
know what I mean? And temps were perfect. And his wife works from home. So it was like, it was just a win-win. He was like, I'll assume all responsibility. I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. And I said, but the fact that you're willing to do that lets me know that you're on top of it. And,
right.
I'm okay with it. I'm not, and FedEx is closing a lot of hubs right now. And, there's some areas it's going to be getting tough to, get somebody to a hub. So, I remember when I first started shipping in 17, 18, something like that. It was like, shipping to the home was just what you did. They're hub. Hell, I think I had started buying some stuff when I think Matt Shiflett at American Made Exotics told me, he's like, man, it's a lot safer to hold it at the hub. I'm like, well, how does that work? And just like I did with my guy, explaining to him how it works. And he said, most of the exposure to the elements is between the hub and your house in a non-climate controlled vehicle, where it's extremely limited going hub to hub. I can ship a lot colder hub to hub. And then I started recommending it. And then with COVID, it just became a requirement, but like I said, barring an extraordinary circumstance, I'm not, I'm still human. I'm still going to help somebody out if they need help. But, it can't be the hub 16 miles away and I don't feel like driving there, well, then you don't really want this animal.
Right.
How close is your vet? I've actually asked that question before. How close is your vet? Well, they're 18 miles away. Well, what if your animal gets sick? Are you going to take it to the vet, or is that too far for you to drive? If you want to drive 16 miles to pick it up. That's a pet peeve of mine. Now, I will say this. There is a place for declining an inquiry or blocking a person on Morph market for sure. I'm not saying never, ever, ever do that. One of my pet peeves, and everybody has them, is somebody that just sends a number. And it's usually they do it on a bunch of different animals at once. I don't know if you ever had this happen or not. I've had it happen.
As far as like an offer, other words,
I guess it's an offer. It doesn't even have a dollar sign. It's just like, so they're looking at a $1,200 animal and the message comes in and all it says is 400.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And this was back when, they don't track the response times anymore the way they used to, but this was back when it said this person usually responds, and response times matter in e-commerce big time, so, but now it's not really shown or anything. I don't think they brought that back, but it wouldn't be a problem for me because I live on my damn computer and phone anyway, but that just, I don't know, that irks me. I don't mind a low offer. I can substantiate any price I've got on there. If instead of saying 400, that said, hey man, I want to make you an offer. I really didn't want to insult you, but $400 is my budget, on this animal. Would you consider doing that? I'd explain to him, no, dude, there's no way I can do 400, but maybe I can do 900. You can do 400 down. I can give you 45 days to come, or I could give you 60 days to come up with the rest. You know, I mean, like that's starting a conversation, you know what I mean? But when they just put a number in there that says 400, and then they go to the next one and put one in that says 300, and then you got 12 messages from this same, I loosely call them a buyer, but I mean, they're just looking for somebody that is desperate. And I call it fishing. You know, they're just out there fishing. They're casting as many lines as they can in the water, and they're going to get a bite somewhere. You know, if you make enough dumb offers, you're going to find somebody that needs gas money for the week, or, you know, I mean, something like that, that's going to do it. And I've blocked a couple people too, like, you know, people that are just, I don't tolerate rude, you know. So if somebody makes an offer and I make a counter offer and they're rude about it, I'll just block them. I don't need that negativity. You know what I mean?
Have you had any customers that have been rude for other reasons?
Yeah, not really. I've had a couple of other people that identified themselves as breeders, you know, be rude about, you know, saying I'm underpriced on something, you know, and I always explain to them, well, I'll give you 30% off of it. Why don't you buy it? And the answer is always no. I'm like, well, if I'm priced too low and I'm giving you 30% off that too low price and you're still saying no, you just shot holes all in your bucket of water, you know? Why don't you want it for that? But no, you know, overall, I've had a pretty good experience with people in this industry. I mean, I've had my run-ins here and there, just like other people do. And I feel like we've been moderately successful, and, you know, and that's going to bring out a hater here or there. You know what I mean? Like that just instantly happens, you know. When I first started out, you know, and I did spend a lot of money, you know, when I first started out, because I went all in. This was a full-blown business venture for me, doing something that I love. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. You can still give great care, take care of animals, you know, and make money doing it, you know. And so when I came in, I got my feet wet first just to make sure. And then after I did that, I went pretty hard. You know, we spent, you know, middle six figures, you know, on animals and stuff like that. You know, it took about 2 years to break even. And then, you know, we started turning a little bit of a profit after that. But, you know, it was, you know, early on, all the old heads, I got a lot of the buy-in stuff. Oh, he just bought in. He didn't really do anything. You know, they want you to buy a clown and a normal and make your own heads, and then make your own single gene clowns, and then put the codoms in them, where I'm like, you know, are you letting go of any of those hypo clown pods over there? You know, well, there's only been 4 made. I'm like, well, I know, I want one of them, you know. And I didn't always get those things, but, you know, it was, you know, I feel like we made some good decisions. We made some bad decisions, you know. I don't know what the decision of the direction that we're going now is going to be, but I can tell you what, I'm happier than I've been at any time in recent memory.
And that's what matters. That's what matters, for sure.
I'm not pressed for time to eat dinner and then come up and finish everything else that I needed to do. I'm not behind on anything. All the animals are tip-top shape, clean. I'm packed for the show. You know, I'm packed for the show. Animals packed for the show, the whole 9 yards, and still got on here on time after eating dinner. I made a roast today. I did 2 loads of dishes today. You know, my wife's loving this extra spare time because I can't stand dirty dishes in the sink. And I don't think she's done dishes in like couple of months now, you know what I mean? It's just something I do while I'm making myself breakfast, you know. But no, I'm enjoying it, man. And, you know, like I said, I'm not going anywhere, and it's not a dig on BallPythons. I don't mean it that way at all. It's just the time consuming nature of them, the number that I had to keep to do the type of numbers of offspring that I needed to do also played a big factor into it. Because, I mean, you know, I paired 103 females last year and only got 43 clutches, you know, and they'll say, oh, only 43 clutches. If I paired, I mean, every hognose I paired gave me a clutch. Most of them are going to give me 2, you know what I mean? Like when you brewmate. So, I mean, I can take a single 50-40, like this one sitting right behind me here, put 40 females in it, and produce 1,000 babies in a year. If I don't ever want to do that. Now, let's be clear. I'm not, that's not where we're headed. But I'm just saying, like, I could with just 40 adult females and, you know, 25 or 30 adult males, you know, and it's, you know, mice are cheap. I don't have to breed rodents. You know what I mean? Like, I can feed an adult hognose for a month for what I could feed a juvenile ball python for one meal. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
And I agree with Brandon too. Like the rodents is the biggest factor.
oh that's a huge
That's
factor.
huge.
And I mean, think about just at roughly $2 a pup, which is about what you're looking at. I mean, you might could find a deal if you had a homie somewhere breeding rodents or whatever. But if you're buying from a commercial distributor, even in volume, you might could get down to $1.50. Do that math on 400 and something ball pythons eating every week. 400 something hatchlings eating every week. It doesn't take long for that to creep up to $3,500, $4,000 a month in a food bill, where I'm paying less than 10% of that to feed an entire collection of rodents. You know what I mean? That I can go pull feeders anytime I need them. So I mean, the convenience factor was there, but man, it kind of became a grind over the last year instead of something I truly enjoyed doing when it came to the rodents.
And when you bring your own rodents, you save money, but you put a lot of time and work into it. And I feel like
time is money too. So
time, exactly. And I feel like with rodents, like it's got the most kind of like wild cards in it in terms of stuff that goes wrong. Whether it's like a line getting clogged up or is a tub getting flooded out, just stuff like that just happens. Like despite your best efforts to prevent a lot of that stuff, at the end of the day, from what I've seen so far, man, some shit gonna happen with the rodents. And so
I've been pretty
that's
lucky.
a lot of work too.
I've never had a chew out. So I haven't had that issue. I've never had a line chewed. The only flood outs I've had was when I first got my ARS 5032, and I didn't know those little shits could push the pin up through the top, and then it would come back rusted open. But I had a couple happen then I got some needle nose and squeezed it in there, and all that stuff, and got that going. But no, I haven't had any serious incidents. I've had a few clogged nozzles, that went a few days too long and had some skinny, thirsty rodents in there that I had to. I'd put like 4 water bottles on there to get them rehydrated and everything. But I've never killed a ton. But I mean, my rodent room's right outside my back door. I mean, I can I can smell if something's off. I mean, I don't even have to open the door to know something's not right out there. But I've got it down now. I've gotten rid of all the ASFs. I've got one little colony because I've got some Sambos and a couple of them like lives. So I just kept one little colony going just to keep my line intact. I'm just going to grow out 12, 15 females, 5 or 6 males. And then just when that colony goes down, start a new one just to keep a few little stuff going. But I
done had rodents get out before. And so like they chewed lines. And so like that was a big pain until we caught all of them. What else have I had? I've had it to where like a tub got flooded because of like a nozzle, and so I went through and replaced pretty much all those nozzles that came with the original wooden rack that we got, because they just seem like low quality nozzles versus the ones that I went out and got, and so I have way less of that issue now. But you still got to like check, and it's like little things you got to check and make sure like as you're going through. It's a lot of attention to detail. Otherwise, if you don't pay that attention to detail, then stuff can go wrong. And paying attention to detail like that takes a lot of time. Over time, it adds up. And so if bandwidth is something that you're struggling with, then that is going to further take away from that bandwidth. So the rodents, it's a lot of work.
Chris, I agree with that. I can't stand the mouse smell either.
Oh no, I mean, I got all ASFs, bro.
I've bred them before, and I had nothing but ASFs. Now I've just got rats because the only thing I need rats for my bull snakes. This one's been cruising around. She's been trying to come out. This girl right here. She's pretty chill, a little chill. I got one that's crazy, but yeah, man, it's I've just got the hatchling BallPython, so I'm just breeding for pups, right now, and then I'll wean 10 or 12 a week, let them get up to small to medium, and then freeze them just so once I do cut it back, I know I've got a good stock to start with anyway for my bull snakes. But they eat a big, large medium every 2 weeks, so it's not like they're going to break the bank. Either way, I've only got I got 6 bulls and 3 gophers. The gophers will be on rats before long. My San Diego gophers, that's a smaller strain. They're more coastal. They'll stay on mice forever. Like they don't ever have to be on rats. But yeah, I'll tell you a tip, man, with that watering is, number one, I've never had a problem with Reptile Basics nozzles. That's all I've ever used. And
that's what we ended up getting.
do you have a drain valve at the end of your line?
Nah.
That's something I would. Do you have a filter coming out of your reservoir?
Yeah.
Okay, so having that filter coming out of the reservoir, I usually change those about once every 2 months, just automatically, whether they're clogged up or not, just as a preventative. I've got a timer that goes off on my phone. I just leave it up till I get time to do it. It doesn't take long to just snip it out and pop a new one in. And having that clean out valve at the bottom, it's not really a clean out valve, it's a drain valve. But every week, whenever the water buckets get filled, I run enough water out of it to fill about a 32-ounce cup. Like I feel like it's backwashing everything out of the lines, and you'll get like big balls of gunk, and stuff that'll come out. And then I generally have replaced the water lines about once a year, just pulled them out myself and just reran them. It's once I did it once, I was like, man, that was so much easier than like flushing and cleaning and getting all the smell out of it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, now I've had a pretty good run with rodents. I just am ready to run away from them. But no, and I mean, B said something, ball pythons are too good to me. That's exactly the way I felt several years ago. But I mean, without getting too much into personal business, when you reach a level of financial security that is not going anywhere, you know what I mean? Like, it's there. It lets you really kind of see where your priorities are. And, Beth Ann and I went to St. Thomas for a long weekend, Thursday to Sunday. No, I think we left Monday, Thursday through Sunday. And this was back in January. And it was the first time in 14 years we've been somewhere, just the two of us with no kids, that was not a snake show.
You saying 14 years?
14 years. And, we kind of, I don't know, man, we're empty nested. I think that kind of affected me too, because when my son lived here before he went to college, and granted, his apartment's 5 miles from here, but we only see him once a week. He does do a few little things for me. He works for me once a week to at least call himself earning his money. but he asked me, like, here lately he's been doing a lot of like helping me tear down racks and stuff like that. And
okay,
I had a mini 130 I traded for a hognose, and I wasn't gonna trade it for a hognose, but then the guy, he was too high on the snake, and then I was going to pick it up. I'd already bought one from him. I was going to pick it up anyway. It was about an hour away. And I just thought to bring it up. I was like, hey, man, if you need any racks, these are the 3 I've got available. He's like, oh, man, I really wanted a mini 130. I said, well, maybe we can talk now. So we ended up trading. So we took it on a Saturday. The following Monday. No, was it Monday? No, it was Wednesday. The following Wednesday, I had him come help me tear it down and load it back up to drive an hour to take it to this dude to trade it for this hognose snake. That and some cash, but it's a nice hognose snake. But yeah, I mean, I get a little bit of help from him, but I think the empty nest and it just being the two of us and having all this spare time, but having all this spare time taken up, that I don't know, man. I just got to a point where, I still want to do shows. I still want to do the same shows that we've been doing, but I also want
to do other shit too.
Yeah, I want to take that time off too to go deep sea fishing or something. Got it. Chris from Sea Serpent's been trying to get me to come down for years, go fishing with him. I mean, I think I'm gonna make that happen this next year.
Nice. Cool, bro. Well, we about 90 minutes in, man. This time passed by real quick. It's been a great show, man. I appreciate you sharing all that knowledge. Are you do you have a Patreon?
I do not have a Patreon. I actually thought about doing a Patreon for this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was going with.
Just to answer specific questions and stuff like that. But then I decided I don't want to charge people for that. You know what I mean? Like, if I did it, it would be something that would be free or a minimal paywall. $5 a month. So, just something like that, because I'm not going to be IDing your snakes. I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? I will for my friends. I'll help people and stuff like that. But I don't want to, I don't want to have a, I don't want to have a Patreon where people want me to ID their snakes and, what's this worth? What's that worth? What do you see in this one? I just don't want to do that. And I don't know that there's enough value in the business end of things because so many people don't consider it a business. You know what I mean? Like, that's, I don't understand that, because to me, the definition of a business is, you're producing something to sell in exchange for currency. I mean, you're a business if you breed one clutch a year and sell half of it. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
business. But I understand what they're saying, and there's too many people that think that making money, sometimes a lot of money, breeding animals is in some way not virtuous, or something.
Yeah, and that's
And
crazy, man.
I
I
think
mean,
it's insane, because it comes down
that's a
to
whole double clutch episode. Sounds like.
well, it comes down to the fact that, man, that's the American dream, right? Doing what you love and making a living doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, that could be football, that could be baseball, that could be professional fishing, that could be anything. It can also be breeding snakes. It can be breeding geckos. It could be breeding torts. Whatever it is that you want to do. Breeding dogs. You know what I mean? As long as you do it ethically, legally, safely, clean, make sure your animals are taken care of, who cares? I care more about the person with one starving ball python in a 55-gallon tank than I do somebody producing 400 animals a year, because I know those 400 animals a year are getting taken care of. You know what I mean? That one ball
100%.
python in that 55-gallon tank's not. I mean, that's just me.
Cool. Well, yeah, man. Again, man, appreciate you coming on tonight. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Big shout out to the replay game. Y'all sliding through. Make sure y'all leave comment on the video. But that's gonna be it for tonight. So for
Come see us in Nashville.
Oh yeah, definitely go check them out in Nashville. For Clutch Conversations, I'm Mike. The lovely lady behind the scenes is Takar. Thank y'all for coming out. Be blessed. Peace.